Order. We have a quorum. Councilmember Perry being present, Councilmember Weston, and myself, Chairman Cardenas. We'll begin by announcing that we're going to continue item number 3 for 2 weeks. And so we'll go to item 1. Can staff read item 1 into the record?
Item number 1, motion Perry Reyes, relative to instruction to LEHD and the LA Department of Building Safety to report on various issues related to the substandard housing property located at 443 and 445 West 9th Street. 49th Street, and for both departments to take appropriate actions to correct all violations at the aforementioned property.
Okay. Sure.
Thank you for indulging me, Mr. Chair. Since this property is located in the 9th Council District, I wanted to put these comments on the record before staff makes its presentation, and then the remainder of the time for questions. I'm very horrified to be talking about this property. It is in an unimaginable state. It was permitted for 3 units, and it was allowed to expand into 40 illegal substandard units. The property owner was allowed to apply for permits with Building and Safety for a use that would never be permitted at this location. It's also disturbing that months went by and the property continued to illegally expand and rent out units, and our city did not take or have any initiative to contact the housing department. We were contacted by Intercity Law Center. At the end of this discussion today, I'm going to make a motion that Building and Safety and the Los Angeles Housing Department report back to this committee on a case management structure that could address these types of situations on a going forward basis. And I'll also make a motion to have a report back from Building and Safety and Housing to include analysis on the Clean Hands Ordinance and whether or not that would help prevent this type of egregious violation from happening again. This is a horrible situation where we've had to now draw down on our revolving fund to make sure we relocate these tenants out of this very dangerous and substandard living condition, and hopefully we as a city will be able to collect down the road, if not from the property owner, perhaps from the sale of the property, or if we have to raise the property, selling the land. One way or the other, we need to be able to take care of these people first and then work on making sure that we get our money back. This is not fair to the tenants who have lived in the building, nor is it fair to the taxpayers who have to foot the relocation bill. And with that, I just want to say those things right now, Mr. Chair, and then I'll ask questions after the presentations are made.
Thank you. And is that a motion?
Yeah, I'll make it a formal motion at the end if you want. Two right now. All right, yeah.
Okay, you already stated those.
Yeah, I already stated them. So yeah, those are 2 motions.
Motion by okay, seconded by Councilmember Weston.
Great.
Thank you. In addition to that, we do have, before we get the presentation, we have a public comment card. I'd like to go to that first. Antonia Ramirez.
Yeah, it is.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I came here again to speak on these housing problems. Many of your landlords in East LA are renting out apartments, whether it be the rooms, the closets, the kitchens to sleep in. And every square inch of the house has been rented to these illegal criminal aliens, especially in East LA. And case in point, at 3744 East 55th Street, Maywood, California, 90270, we have a house that is major. You've got more than 20 people coming in and out every day, as well as living in the premises. The premises on the outside are substandard as well as the inside. Not only is it illegal substandard housing by the owner who's renting out every square inch of that house from within and from without, it breeds criminal violence. These people are engaged in criminal violence where they set up shop and then they act as a lookout people, and they bring in anybody and all around from outside into that one particular block from Carmelita to Loma Vista on East 55th Street. Again, when you don't take action and start going after the landlords for renting out every square inch of the houses, particularly in East LA, you're breeding crimes in that area, and it branches out to the extraneous areas in downtown Los Angeles. And that's what many landlords are now doing, especially Latinos. They're renting every area of their inside that premises, whether it be the bathroom, the couch, the living room, the closet, the outdoor patio. And it's just a cockroach-infested area, and it does breed violence as well as gang-banging activities. So many of these gangbangers are able to relocate so easily from one house to another house and evade police arrests. Why? Because they already have a network with the city attorneys not aware of. I take great pride in doing your job, city attorneys, and it has cost me at an excruciating price. So I hope that you will rectify that, please. Thank you.
Excuse me.
Thank you.
Could I just,
Councilmember Arcona has a question for you, Ms.
I just
Ramirez.
want to ask a question. You're always raising this issue of this house in Maywood.
Yeah.
I'm just curious. Maywood is not in the city of Los Angeles. Do you testify at Maywood, or do you tell them
Maywood,
also?
you're right. But if you were to curtail 90% of the problems and the crimes in East LA, because it follows me all the way here, you would solve most of the problems in the criminal violence and all the other crimes in Los Angeles. Again, starting at the hub, which is East LA, a powerful hub by these gangbangers and illegal aliens. If you stop them, you will stop most of the crimes all around.
Okay.
You see?
So
And that's what I'm doing.
Our problems are coming from Maywood.
I'm sorry, I do come from Maywood.
Our problems are coming from Maywood.
Most of your problems are coming from Maywood and East LA. Come on, Alarcon, you know that. You know the homies. I learned the hard way. I learned the hard way. And I'm not a gangbanger or a junkie, but I learned the hard way how they function. I dare the city attorney live what I do, stay up all night and follow these guys and end up being falsely arrested, but tagging them and following them and standing up to them and taking their license plate number in the middle of the street. So, yeah, it takes balls to do what I'm doing. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Did you get your questions answered, Councilman? Okay, got it. Thank you. Those are all the public comment cards on this item.
May I just thank I see the lawyer from the Inner City Law Center is here, and thank you for coming out today and monitoring this, and she's actually the person who is handling the case. So just
Thank
wanted
you.
to say thank you very much for coming out.
We can use all the help we can get.
Yeah, we really can. Thank you.
Thank you. That closes the public comment for item number 1. Unless any of the members have questions for the departments on this item at this time, we do have some motions that were made and seconded by Councilmember Perry. Is there anything else you'd like to add, Ms. Perry?
No, that's it for now. Then we'll get our report backs, and then we'll keep moving forward.
Report back in 30 days?
Yeah. that'd be
Okay,
good.
so there'll be a report back in 30 days, and so this committee moves the motions made by Councilmember Perry, and the departments will report back in 30 days. Next, we go to item number 2.
Item number 2 is a LEHD and CAO reports relative to authority to negotiate and execute a new contract with the Southern California Housing Rights Center for operation of the citywide fair housing program for the period of October 1st, 2011 through March 31st, 2012.
Okay, we will open it up for public comment at this time. We have Antonia Ramirez filled out a card for item number 2 for public comment.
Again, I thank you very much. I'd like to go ahead and expound a bit on, again, I take great pride in doing your job, city attorneys, and I don't get paid for it, but in the end, I will win. And you can laugh at yourself after the meeting. California Housing Rights Center. There's nothing right about the California Housing Rights Center, nor is there anything fair about the Fair Housing Program. And I'll say why. Because most of these programs have not benefited the United States military veterans. Most of these centers are being run by illegals or criminal illegal gangbangers. And many of them, again, you attract what you are. So many of these illegals have brought in their friends, their homies, and they play the sad sorry song that, oh, I'm poor, I just came from the other side. And, they get first preferential treatment. As opposed to military veterans. Most of the military veterans are homeless today because these centers did not and would not benefit in any way, shape, or form. Go to the shelters, Cardenas, city attorneys. Talk to the military veterans, including one dear friend of mine, a Mexican-American, who is a Marine Corps veteran in a shelter. And I do it for him and for the rest of my beautiful military veterans. I take great pride because we owe them, first and foremost, a home. Not the wetbacks, not the gangbangers, but these beautiful military veterans and their families and pilots who are on furlough. I am sad, I am hurting, because I would like to see these centers that you have created, which are nothing more than barracuda types. They attack and they criticize, demean, and dehumanize military veterans. Talk to every one of them who is in a homeless shelter. They will tell you their sad story. But you know why they don't come up here? Because they've got principle. They've got guts. They're not going to come here begging like dogs, like most of these illegals come here begging for every grant that they can get a hold of. But look at them. They sit there quietly with a cup of coffee or a cigarette, just hurting inside. And I hurt for them because nobody helps them. And I intend with every fervor to fight for them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. That concludes public comment on item number 2. Unless we have any questions from the members of the committee, we'll move to approve the CAO's recommendations on item number 2. Okay, the item's approved. Again, we put item 3 over for 2 weeks, so if you'll read item 4 into the record.
Item number 4, communication from the mayor relative to the budget for the 38th program year Housing and Community Development Consolidation Plan, Home Investment Partnership Program, Housing Opportunities for Persons with AIDS, and Emergency Solutions Grant for the 2012-13 5th year action plan.
Thank you very much. First, we'll go to public comment. We have 3 public comment cards. Nancy Volper, Rabea Sen, and Sarah Berdine. We're on item number 4. Start to my left. Go ahead. Announce your name for the record, and you have 2 minutes.
My name is Sarah Burdine. I'm the Executive Director of Haven Hills, and we serve victims of domestic violence in the San Fernando Valley. And first and foremost, I want to thank this committee for really, understanding about domestic violence and the critical need to keep our services in place. But I do want to go on record in saying, year after year now, we've been seeing a cut. And again, it's slated at a 15% cut, I believe, which, thank you. I mean, it's not as severe, I think, as what it could be given the economic times. But we're seeing more and more victims of domestic violence at Haven Hills. And the resources are stretched so thin. I'd just like this committee to know, even though I'm thanking you for your support and the recommendation for funding, I'm also asking that in the future that maybe we look at a way for the City of Los Angeles to actually help funding instead of just with Cdbg pass-through dollars, because it is a critical health and public safety issue. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi. My name is Rabia Sen, and I'm the Program Director for the Prototypes Domestic Violence Programs. We have 3 sites in the City of Los Angeles, one of which is a transitional domestic violence shelter called Star House. I, too, am here to say thank you for, recommending the funding, but we also wanted to let you know that the cut in funding is going to have a huge impact on our ability and at that the entire system's ability to respond to this issue of domestic violence. It is a critical public safety issue. It is a critical public health issue. For people who are not able to escape their situations of domestic violence, they are further trapped in an abusive relationship. It increases the long-term medical needs that they may have, the social, emotional, psychological support that they may need, including that their children may need if they have children. It increases the stressors on a multitude of systems, such as the Child Protective Services, law enforcement, the emergency rooms. Our hospitals are seeing women and children, I should say, survivors and children come in every single day. They are trapped in these relationships. For Star House, over the last year, as a transitional shelter, we provided shelter to 90 women and children. With this 15% cut, our ability to even do that is reduced. And mind you, at this point, with our current funding, without the funding cut, we are still having to turn away people calling us every single day. I would just like to also point out, I have statistics from 2007 from the LAPD. The patrol calls for service for domestic violence were over 41,000. That's just a number to throw out there.
Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Nancy Volford. I'm the Director of Public Policy with Jewish Family Service of Los Angeles. Through our Family Violence Project, we have been providing services to victims of intimate partner violence and their children for more than 25 years. I echo my colleagues' appreciation, I guess, for only cutting an arm and not the rest of us in this very difficult time. The stressors are up, the incidents up, the severity of the calls we're seeing is up. Unfortunately, victims are delaying seeking help because of the economic downturn. They are concerned for their housing, for their safety, and for their economic well-being. The longer they delay help, the more severe it is when they seek it, the more difficult it is to find permanent housing, permanent employment, and to get their children into schooling that will help them break the cycle of violence and move forward. We are, for our numbers, for perspective, we answered 7,000 calls through our hotline in 2011, and those numbers continue to rise. Numbers are going up, and we are appreciative of this past support and also hope that there are other non-CDBG funding alternatives that may be able to supplement some of the funds. On a separate note, JFS would just like to thank the members of this committee and the entire City Council for their past support of the Home Secure program. Since 1977, this program has helped low-income seniors and people with disabilities in all 15 council districts remain safely in their home with minor safety modifications. Unfortunately, in this year's CON plan, the Housing Department has eliminated the program, and we will be closing it at the end of this contract. But the City Council has been an incredible champion for the program in the past, and we wanted to publicly thank each and every one of you for that support.
Okay, we want one more. Okay. Thank you very much. We have one more public comment card on item number 4. Raul Estrada.
Good morning. My name is Raul Estrada. I'm the Executive Director for El Centro de Ayuda, and we're the lead agency for the Boyle Heights Family Source Center. I'm speaking not just on behalf of the Boyle Heights Family Source Center, but the Family Source system for the City of Los Angeles. I thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak in front of you today. These are difficult times. We all know that. Difficult decisions have to be made. We all know that as well. But I think during these difficult times, it's important that the decisions that we make have the less amount of impact, especially on the families that we service. As you know, the Family Source Center system of the City of Los Angeles services over and approximately 50,000 families in the City of Los Angeles. Each Family Source Center services anywhere from 2,500 to over almost 3,000 families, unduplicated families in the City of Los Angeles. I mean, the services that we provide are not just important, but they're necessary. We are, in fact, the last line of defense for many of the families that are coming to us for assistance. These are difficult times. I mean, the families depend on the Family Source systems for support, for direction, to be able to be referred to the other sources within the City of Los Angeles. So that said, I urge you to really look at the proposed 15% cut, which in combination with the 5% cut last year is a 20% cut in the Family Source system, which really gravely impacts our ability to really help the families that we are there to assist. I thank you, and thank you very much.
Okay, appreciate it. That concludes the... Okay, Antonia Ramirez, you put down public comment, but you did not put a number on this card. Did you want to speak on item number 4? No, general public comment will be later. Okay, that's what I thought. Thank you. With that, that concludes the public comment cards that were filled out on item number 4. Public comment on item number 4 is now closed. We'll have the staff come forward. There's some chairs on the side of the room that can be moved. Okay.
Good morning, council members, Cardenas, Wesson, Alarcon, and Perry. I'm sure you've heard the more bad news, the Republican pain coming from Washington, D.C. that is arriving in Los Angeles in a big way with this consolidated plan. There's a chart that's being passed down that I thought kind of does sort of clarify the big picture. And I think it's actually being passed out also to folks in the audience. The chart on the left kind of gives you the overall sense of the disinvestment that is coming to our cities over the last 40 years. You have those little tiny peaks that represent the Carter administration, the Clinton administration, the Obama administration, but overall a general trend dramatically down towards disinvestment from our cities to our cities. If you look on the back, it gives you a 2-year trend for Cdbg and home dollars, the two primary funding entitlements that are coming in the consolidated plan. So a 2-year cut in Cdbg of 32% and a 2-year cut in home dollars of 51%. Right. So what that entitlement means this year is that in 1 year, the Cdbg cut in the comp plan is 11%. In entitlement in home dollars that funds our Affordable Housing Trust Fund is 38%. So it's $26 million cut overall to some of the most vulnerable people in Los Angeles. So,
Larry, for the benefit of the people who don't have the chart, so we're looking at fiscal year 2010, just over $121 million overall, and then fiscal year 2012, you see that it is now dwindled down to just shy of 74 million. So from 121 million to 74 million.
That's right.
And Larry, has the need out there in the community diminished as well?
Yeah, no, it's clearly in this environment where we have, over 300,000 people unemployed, those families are hurting, very sharply. And so there is this weird aberration because as you now start applying the 11% and the 38% cut, to the formula as it hits Los Angeles, it is even more dramatic, right? So the Los Angeles entitlement, we just got the actual entitlement numbers last night, but the actual entitlement cut to the city of Los Angeles and Cdbg funds, instead of it being 11% a national figure, is a 19.5% cut to the city of LA, right, and a 43% cut in home dollars. And let me explain a moment why that is. We put a lot of time bringing in, anti-poverty researchers and trying to understand why the city got hit so hard. And there's a number of factors. Factor number one is that there are 17 new entitlement cities that are actually getting a share of our Cdbg and home dollars, right? The second is that we've always used the 2000 census until we had a 2010 census. And the 2010 census doesn't show a dramatic increase in population in the city of Los Angeles, right? Whereas some other cities have had a more dramatic increase. But as you know, the 2010 census was a very simple census, like an eight-question census. Didn't ask any questions about poverty. So to rectify that, they have taken the American Community Survey, the ACS data, and they've averaged it from 2005 to 2009, which hasn't really picked up the huge impact in terms of unemployment in places like Los Angeles, which is one of the largest, highest unemployments in the country. So that's part of the problem. So it also shows the 2005 to 2009 census or ACS shows a 3% cut reduction in poverty, while the rest of the country shows a 1% increase in poverty, which seems a little bit like an aberration, but we're looking into it, and it seems to be supported data. But there's also a couple other weird aberrations. One of them is that there's two different formulas you can use. It goes back to the 1979 legislation. And Formula B is meant to kind of protect cities with old housing stock, addressing slum and blight. So in applying Formula B, which has 50% of the formula is focused on the amount of housing stock pre-1940, places like New York and Chicago are getting a 3% cut in their entitlement, whereas we're getting a 19% cut in our entitlement. And peculiarly, and it's something we're actually having researchers looking into, New York and Chicago, in applying the ACS data, are actually showing an additional 8% increase in pre-1940 housing stock, which is pretty hard to do since it has an increase.
They went back and built.
Yeah, more pre-1940. But it's again an aberration of applying the ACS data instead of the census to these cities. So we're getting particularly hard hit as a result of how these pieces of formula and spreading out the resources and this, the poverty data. We think that over the next number of years, we'll probably get back a little bit closer to the national average instead of getting hit so much harder. But we put a lot of time into trying to understand this, and we wanted to share that part of the story with the committee.
Since you touched on that, Larry, is the mayor's office working with our DC contacts?
Absolutely.
Trying to help people in Congress understand how the city of LA is being impacted by these formulas and the different changes?
And so, there's the U.S. conference, which is addressing directly the overall reduction in the entitlements. And then we're actually working with individual cities that are more hard hit, which tend to be not some of the older cities, but it's actually some of the cities that have a little bit, that don't have the large pre-1940 housing stock, to try to take a look at, instead of a 5-year average, can we do a reduce the average? We're looking hard at that. We're not confident that we're going to be successful after a bunch of the inquiries that we've had in that. So it gets a little worse, right? So when you then add the reduction in CRA, program income, last year there was, I think, about $7 or $8 million in program income. This year we have, I think,
Around 2.9 million.
2.9 million in program income included in there. So that takes us to a 23% across-the-board cut to CDBG funds and a 43% cut in home dollars. We had a tiny bit of good news last night. So ESG, the Emergency Solutions Grant, got a small bump, as did HOPWA dollars, but overall it's a $1 million increase compared to the $27 million decrease in CDBG and home. So what I think is when we looked at that, we actually relied on our Commission on Community Family Services to do a lot of public comment and to do a kind of an assessment and recommendations on how we should proceed. And the recommendation we got is that we really, in this atrocious environment, right, we should do our best to protect those communities that are most vulnerable and those nonprofits that serve those communities that are most vulnerable. So as you see, in the plan, we have a 15% cuts to our domestic violence shelters, to our homeless services, to our Summer Night Lights program, which was very painful internally to hit our own, program that we work with council so hard on, our family source centers. The admin cap is extremely painful, so it's a 23% cut that's coming to CDD and LEHD, over $2 million in cuts that CDD has to absorb. We work closely with LEHD as to how they wanted to apportion the cut, and Rushmore can speak to that, but I think they didn't do just across-the-board cuts. They actually thought through where they could, supplement with NSP and figure out how to make the program most functional in terms of housing. The only possible variable that's going to be coming to this committee is what happened after we passed the consolidated plan on to council before the end of the year, as we had promised, is what happened in the Supreme Court, California Supreme Court, to CRA. So there's a possibility not a huge, it won't be a game changer, but a possibility of additional program income that might be part of the conversation as it goes forward. But I just wanted to say it's been a very painful year for the city on many fronts, and now we have to add this pain to all the other pain that we've had to incorporate.
Could any of you at the table, can you help us understand the impacts of this, the CRA, the actions that the courts and the legislature and the governor had on CRA, and how that would affect these funds and these programs?
Well,
so for us, one of our considerations when we were looking at economic development and neighborhood improvement projects were to really look at programs that were already ongoing and ready to close. So that's why we didn't have a lot of new projects that were recommended this year. We were very cautious in what we recommended in those individual line items. The other thing is that, again, there is the issue of potentially program income as a result of the Cal Plaza transfer to the city of LA. We, again, were cautious and did not include that in our estimates for the CDBG recommendations, but that is something for you guys to consider moving forward.
Rushmore Cervantes with the Housing Department. The 43% reduction in the home entitlement is obviously a significant blow to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. Traditionally, the Affordable Housing Trust Fund has approximately $50 million to allocate to affordable housing projects, and that fund is primarily the source of funds are home dollars, a small allocation from DWP, and 5% from CRA. So that's $50 million a year there. And I bring that up because now with the potential elimination of the redevelopment agency and the tax increment for affordable housing, their 20% set aside for housing was about $50 million a year. So you factor in the reduction of $50 million annually going to affordable housing, an additional $20 million reduction in the Affordable Housing Trust Fund for next year, you're looking at a 70% reduction overall in affordable housing for next year. And now we're looking to try to position ourselves with existing projects, whatever's left in the pipeline, as we do the analysis coming forward for the end of this month, as to determine whether the city should take on the responsibility to take on the housing piece, what the financial liabilities are, as well as the legal obligations that we'll be responsible for moving forward. There will be some gaps in financing that we'll have to identify, and we'll have to, as much as we can with the information we do have, clearly articulate that to the mayor and council as to, what the next step should be. And if we do decide to take on the CRA piece, which, will yet to be determined, then thereafter we've got to look at alternate sources of fund to fill the gap for affordable housing. As we mentioned, the need has not dropped. If anything, it's increased, and we're down 70% effectively going in next fiscal year.
Mr. Little, did you want to add anything from what your commission has been doing?
Indeed. So good morning, Mr. Chair, Chair Cardenas, and other esteemed members of the committee. I don't want to repeat what has already been said. The circumstances are clearly dire. But in our capacity as a commission, part of our role is to fulfill the citizen unit participation. And so we had 4 meetings last year, and so we are hearing from the public as we try to assist very low and low-income families, and they are crying for full funding, obviously. And so our efforts in doing what we have done over this past year and in responding to what I consider to be a crash and burn circumstance, and we need to really begin to reprioritize and understand how to best serve these families. We've made a series of recommendations that we've lodged with the council, and so I won't go through them, but chief among them, I'd like to highlight 4 things that we really would like for you to focus on. And first and foremost is the repayment of the CDBG loans. I believe the city must ensure the full and timely repayment of the CDBG loans from all agencies, because those funds go directly into program income that allow us to serve these families. Secondly, we believe that the projects that we do fund must be ready-to-go projects and not follow some of the procedures of the past, which is to basically hold funds until projects are ready. Those funds that have been on hold can be better allocated to fund existing needs. Third, neighborhood improvement projects. We believe that there should be an established competitive procurement process so that there is fairness and transparency. And then finally, funding for multi-year projects should demonstrate a project's comprehensive strategy and that CDBG funds should be last in. And so we continue to work with the CDD and Manny Chavez and those at this table who are really doing the heavy lifting. And I'm so really happy and pleased to be working with Larry Frank and Anna Lynn, who are really doing the heavy lifting from the mayor's office. And we hope that the recommendations that we've made have not fallen on deaf ears. So it's good to be here, and it's good to be among the living, even in such a very difficult time. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. One last question before I go to Ms. Perry. When it comes to all of these reductions that we're talking about, this overall gross reduction in funding from the federal level, are we reducing the staff associated with administering these programs as far as the city staff goes?
Yeah. So I'll let Anna Lynn give the details, but we're having to do a 23% cut in admin, which is over $2 million to CDD, and LEHD is...
It's around 2.4 million also, if you include home into the calculation.
Okay. Yeah. So 23%, which equals about 2.4 million.
For each department is probably going to get hit by 2.4 million in their admin capacity if we factor in home and CDBG together. So I know housing department, we've worked closely with them to see if they've had potentially some vacancies and also availability of other funding such as NSP to absorb some of the cuts. CDD it looks like they have less vacancies to absorb some of the cuts, if any at all. So that is something that the department is working closely. As you know, CAO and CLA will be doing a report back, and I believe, will be working even closer with them regarding their departmental budget and their staffing plans moving forward.
Okay. Thank you. Ms. Perry.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Mr. Chair. I've just got a list of things that I wanted to bring up and make some motions and report backs. I would also like to ask for a report back on the potential program income generated from the Cal Plaza leases in Council District 9. I'd like the CLA and the CAO to report back on the use of these funds for a downtown economic development corporation, or in the alternative, if this could be used as seed money for the development of a citywide economic development strategy. The following points I'm going to make, I guess, could go into one motion. The mayor's plan proposes the reprogramming of $300,000 from Calco Steel. I would like to reprogram these funds to an industrial project located at 6800 South Avalon, entitled Avalon Park Plaza. Both of these projects are in Council District 9, and I'd like to have the funds remain in the district. The mayor's plan also proposes the reprogramming of $75,000 from an old city library located at 4255 South Olive Street. This project is now ready to go. It's ready to move, and I would like for the funds to remain allocated to it so we could get it done. And then I would also like the CLA, CAO to look for additional funds, specifically $25,000 to complete the historic property survey for the Vermont Square Historic Preservation Overlay Zone. That's $25,000 for the continued operation of the Central Avenue Farmers Market, so that's $25,000 on the HPOZ, and $25,000 for the continued operation of the Central Avenue Farmers Market, and the restoration of funds to Shelter Partnership for the technical assistance that they provide to the Los Angeles Homeless Services Authority. The mayor's consolidated plan proposes $50,000 for Shelter Partnership, and the previous year they received $170,000. I know times are hard, but I do just want to make the effort to take an additional look to see if we can get closer to last year's funding level. I know that this is difficult, and this is a new round of cuts, and I appreciate, Mr. Frank, thank you very much, and your entire team of working together collaboratively to do the best that you can, but I just want to see if we can have one more look at that. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Okay, those are all report backs, right? How we can actuate those changes.
You don't think we can do the reprogrammings as motions?
Well, what we're going to do is we're going to get a report back in 30 days so we can work with the CLA and CAO to how we can reprogram.
All right, let's see if we can do it through the report back then. Okay, that's fine.
All right. Any questions, council members? No, from Mr. West? Charlotte? Okay. With that, what I'd like to do is that we move that we continue the item in committee and request the CLA and CAO to report back on the proposed budget, in addition to the specific report backs that were on the reprogram that were stated by Councilmember Perry. I'd also, we would also like to request that the CLA work directly with my office to correct any additional revenues identified and/or modify projects and priorities in the budget. And I'd also like to request that we analyze the dissolution of the CRA and how that impacts the consolidated budget plan, and that we may submit additional questions to the CLA in writing throughout the course of the next few weeks before they report back to this committee. Okay?
Thank you.
So with that, those are the actions of this committee. Okay? And we'll move on from item number 4. That concludes the formal items agendized for today's committee. And so now we move to general public comment. We have one card for general public comment, Antonia Ramirez.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
This is a matter of principle. I would ask the people of Los Angeles not to re-elect Richard Alarcon. And the reason I'm saying that as a Mexican-American, I hope people will look at me as the right Mexican-American. Because Mr. Alarcon is all smiles, but he'll stab you right in the back. He's a hypocrite, in my opinion, and he is one who is funding all the gangbangers and all these other criminal illegal alien growth within the LA County and the East LA. He has contributed or been an active participant in the increase of these criminal illegal aliens. And therefore, I have seen it firsthand. I have heard about it firsthand. So every time I come here to openly discuss anything and everything, going through what I have gone through, because you could never do what I've done, you have tried to demean me, dehumanize me, and ostracize me, and fight me.
Please direct to the committee in general.
Right, and that's what I'm trying to add. So the committee in general is why I come here and what I get the backlash at. So I'm asking people to help me curb and deter the criminal gangbanging elements in East LA that shoot out into all areas of LA County and the city of Los Angeles. And these deputies have also acted in a reckless disregard for human dignity and contributed and been active participants in the escalation of gangbangers. And that is Chango bullies and deputies Cruz, Lomelli, Aguirre, Valencia, Duran, Spears, Gonzalez, Pacheco, Martinez, Malandrino, female Parra, female Sandoval, female Farias, Jay Murillo, Hector Andujo, George Bernal, Henry Romero, Daniel Lopez, and Pedro Mejia. And again, I do not get paid, do not make a penny, but I'm out there doing the job that FBI should be doing, the Department of Justice should be doing, City Council Alarcon should be doing, but he's too busy trying to stop me. Thank you very much.
Public comment for this committee. This committee is now adjourned.
I'm sorry.